Streaming, Amazon, football. What does it all mean? This is MacVoices. This edition of MacVoices is supported by Smile, the makers of PDF Pen and PDF Pen Pro. PDF editing for your Mac, iPhone, and iPad. Find out more at smilesoftware.com/podcast. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. This is part 2 in a 2-part conversation with Charlotte Henry of the Mac Observer and the host of the new Media Plus podcast. This time around, we start talking about Amazon's bid with NFL football and their exclusive rights now to stream Thursday Night Football and what it may mean for streaming sports and streaming in general. Let's get right back to it with Charlotte. And the idea that I don't know. I mean, maybe we just didn't think about it the same way, and I'm going to say I didn't think about it the same way. But pre-tech involvement with the media, the Chicago Sun-Times was the Chicago Sun-Times, and the Wall Street Journal was the Wall Street Journal, and the Washington Post was the Washington Post. And, you know, the London newspaper and the Tokyo newspaper, they were all just there. And then you started to have broadcast TV, and okay, so they were just there. Now we have these media platforms taking political positions, and some of those have always done it to one degree or another, but it just seems to be becoming more and more absolute. You know, like the removal of President Trump from Twitter and Facebook.
Yeah, I mean. Look, media ecosystems are different in different countries. The way we do news TV in the UK is different to how you do it in the US. And the way our newspapers operate in the UK is different to how yours operate in the US. They're kind of the opposite. So I think that depends very much on what country and what regulations and what ecosystem you're operating in.
And I love the fact that you are sitting where you are in the UK and you bring that perspective to both sides.
Thanks, yeah.
Because I mean, I like that. The only way I'm going to learn anything is if I encounter someone with a different set of experiences, and maybe their country has a different way of doing things. That gives me a yardstick to look at the way my country does things, or, you know, both countries do things in relation to a company that I care about, like Apple.
Yeah, and it's also it's fun to have guests from the US, as I say, Ireland, you know, people who have, as you say, different perspectives on different things, because the one thing that is obviously uniform across almost all the tech platforms that you and I are interested in, you know, Apple, an obvious one, Facebook, Twitter, they're obviously all global platforms. Now, a pretty unique factor of Apple TV Plus from the start is that it's literally the same in every country. There's not many streaming services that you can say that about. I think probably Disney Plus, my Disney Plus probably looks the same as your Disney Plus, say. But, you know, there are a number of streaming services that you can get in the US that I cannot get. My Netflix looks very different to your Netflix. I think my Amazon Prime looks different to your Amazon Prime Video. And that's also a kind of an interesting part of this story as well. Whereas obviously on the noise of social media, it's kind of just the noise, right? It's the platform is the platform, and whichever way you're engaging in it, that's what you're going to see, whichever country you're in.
And it's interesting to flip the tech angle just a little bit, that a number of the VPN companies advertise the capability of, okay, you can now be identified as being in the UK, and if I log into Netflix there, I will get things that are not available for my Netflix in the US. So, and that goes to a whole nother example that goes a number of years back for me, where I wanted to buy an album by a particular band on iTunes. And I found out that it was only on the Australian iTunes. And I had to jump through, I don't know how many hoops to be able to buy that album because of the international licensing things. And at some point, you just want to say, you know, can't you people find a way to make this easier?
Yeah, well, and I think that's actually one of the things Apple has done really well with TV Plus. It basically costs the same, you know, whatever, based on the exchange rate in whatever country you're in, and you get the same set of content. as I say, my Apple TV Plus looks the same as your TV Plus, whereas my Netflix does not. You don't need to faff around with a VPN. You don't need to worry about any of that, return to the point you started this conversation with. Even the fact that, Facebook in Australia looked different because of the news removal to Facebook in the UK, that's a big deal. Whereas Apple has, in typical Apple fashion, kind of gone for uniformity in most of its media play. There's some bits that I think you have in the US that I can't get. I think Apple basically did its own MTV, didn't it? It's got Apple Music Television, and I can't get that in the UK. I may have tried to VPN that, actually. Rumors, according to rumors, but I'm not sure it worked. But Apple Music Radio obviously is universal. That generally the theme is universal, although there's some things that it does kind of drill down to locally. So like Apple Music recommendations, they're trying to make more local, for example.
And it may be a characteristic of that this was a service built for a global audience, as opposed to one that was pieced together for this audience, that audience, and then, oh yeah, there are those people over there across that water that might like to see this too. We have to negotiate a whole separate deal on it.
For better and worse, yeah.
Yeah, yes, for better and worse. So one of the pieces of news that when we were setting up our time and we were finally able to get together came out that Amazon spent quite a bit of money on Thursday Night Football here in the U.S.
Yes, I noticed this.
Yeah, as an exclusive provider. They're not going to share it with anybody, at least as of the time we record this. That's going to be it. The only way you're going to get to see Thursday Night Football is going to be if you have an Amazon Prime subscription. Does this have any wide-reaching implications, you think, Charlotte, for the way that sports especially gets distributed? So,
as you know, I'm a very big sport fan, and have various legit subscriptions to various things. And it's my endless frustration that, for example, there's no equivalent of NFL Game Pass in the UK for soccer or, MLB at bat. We don't have any of the equivalent things for our sports. It's all done through traditional Sky, so cable TV, So, and I have written before that I kind of think Apple should have a go and take a swing at doing live sports. I feel, but it makes it a bit messy in terms of, again, keeping that universality of what's on offer. But I think Amazon's done it a bit with tennis before, hasn't it? And it's done it with Premier League soccer here. So it has shown sports before. It's kind of it's more than dipped its toe in. It's put some serious money into it. But obviously, the NFL is a huge play.
But the fact that the NFL was willing to do an exclusive deal with them last year, and I think I've got this correct because, COVID year, but Thursday Night Football, when we did have it, was also being simulcast on the Fox network here in the US. I can't speak for the UK, but you had it. You had
only shows. No, they have shown Thursday Night Football here on Sky, I think, as well as Sunday.
Okay. So now, if everything holds true to the way it is as we know it, the only way you're going to be able to get it is on Amazon, and I have no idea how that will affect the broadcast rights in the UK, whether that will just be an Amazon Prime thing or not. Yeah.
So, there's two potential answers, aren't there? It's either anyone with a Prime Video account can still watch it, or they'll do a deal that offshoots it to Sky, because it's often the Fox. Now, you mentioned I hadn't thought of it, but it is often the Fox simulcast that they show through Sky for obvious reasons. So yeah, it will be very interesting. I'll have to let you know how it plays out here, because I think the whole world of sports rights and sports broadcasting is very interesting anyway. It's been particularly interesting this year where, the only way really, particularly in the UK, you could watch sport was over television. You couldn't go to a sporting event. And so it will be, I think it's shown kind of some of the, particularly here in the UK, the kind of arcane rules around sports broadcasting rights, and maybe, but Amazon showing Thursday Night Football, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out globally, because surely it is to the advantage of the NFL to have as many people watch it as possible. but Jeff Bezos has a big checkbook, right? And that can solve many problems.
Well, and that's kind of the thing that I thought was interesting about this. And I felt like for some reason, and you know better than I do, this is your beat. So I don't know if there have been other big name, big ticket sports events that were strictly on streaming. So correct me if I'm wrong, but at least for me, and I don't pay that much attention to much other than golf. I feel like this was a bellwether of some kind that the NFL decided, okay, for this particular section of games, there's only one way you're going to get it, and that is through this one, not broadcast network, but one streaming service.
Yeah, so there have been rounds of Premier League soccer here that have been exactly the same thing. The only way you could watch it was to have an Amazon Prime Video account. It happens a few times a season.
So knowing the passion with which the Europeans approach soccer, or football as you would call it,
did you like my translation of it?
Yeah, that was very good.
Oh,
how was that received?
I think people were a bit annoyed at the beginning because there's already two other channels through which you had to, if you want to watch all of it, there was already two things you had to have. So having another one was kind of a bit annoying to people. And there was some tech issues. Like the thing that is different for when streaming services do sports as opposed to a box set, let's say, is it has to be as close to live as possible, right? And your friend texting you that someone has scored 30 seconds before you see it and this was a real thing, because your internet connection is a bit different or your stream is at a different point, is really annoying. And I think they have to be very careful with that. But definitely Amazon's, the football here has definitely improved its broadcasting since it started. It was quite clunky at the beginning, but it has definitely got better. And I suspect the attention that we put on getting NFL Thursday Night Football right will be quite extensive.
This edition of MacVoices is sponsored by Smile, the makers of world-class software like PDF Pen and PDF Pen Pro. I've been telling you about some of the capabilities of PDF Pen this week. Now I want to tell you about the extra features you get if you upgrade to PDF Pen Pro. PDF Pen Pro takes the power of PDF Pen to a new level. Need to create cross-platform fillable PDF forms that include interactive signature fields, email fields, or web submission buttons? You got it. Create a table of contents and bookmarks, so consolidating PDFs from various sources into a single organized document is a snap? Yes. Want to review an entire website but don't want to be online? Want to be able to annotate your notes on that website? PDF Pen Pro can do it. Want to export the data in a PDF to an Excel or PowerPoint file so you can manipulate it with those programs? Of course. All that and more is yours with PDF Pen Pro. No matter which flavor of PDF Pen you use, it will soon be one of your most important tools. Visit smilesoftware.com/podcast to find out more and download your free trial. Smilesoftware.com/podcast for PDF Pen and PDF Pen Pro, both from Smile, the makers of world-class software. Thanks to Smile for their support of MacVoices. You just reminded me when you said that about the idea that some TV shows will premiere here or there or wherever, and then they will premiere 2 weeks later on another continent or in another nation, and by that time, the people that know how to get them have already gotten them.
Right. Absolutely. And I think it's probably a thing that Apple has done well to avoid. You want to watch the next three episodes of the morning show, here they are. You want to watch Ted Lasso, here it is, and everyone gets it. But, it's time zone dependent, not dependent on weeks. It kind of all arrives at the same time. And I think that's another thing, actually, that Apple TV Plus has got right. There's none of that, I haven't seen it yet, I can't get it yet. It makes it a lot cleaner. Let's be honest, it's a very Apple approach, right?
Well, again, it feels like a global approach, that they recognize that the mistakes that have been made, and that, you have oh, Kelly Gumad would love this, but the next Star Wars movie premieres, April 1st here, but it doesn't premiere in the UK until May 1st. And, the UK fans are going crazy. And you're right, Apple has avoided all of that drama and all of those questions.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been things, this is been a problem in the UK media for ages that, there's all sorts of seasons of big US shows that we get here, but we might get them 3 months, 6 months, whatever, later. So for a perfect example is, was it The Flight Attendant, the Kaylee Cuoco show? That's done really well on HBO Max. Has been on all the things. It's only really the last couple of weeks just arrived in the UK, whereas everyone in the US has seen it. It's in every award show already and whatever. Or I still haven't seen the final season that's aired of Brooklyn Nine-Nine because I'm waiting to arrive on UK Netflix.
And that feels like just
3
a huge
days.
loss.
It's coming in 3 days. I'm so excited.
And that just feels like such a huge lost opportunity. If you have people that want the stuff.
It just feels totally arcane, doesn't it?
That's a great word. Yes, arcane. Yes. Okay, I hope somebody's listening to this. It's all, as you said, same as with sport. It goes back to who holds the rights, and it's why Disney wanted Disney Plus, because it took complete control. In a year where there's no cinemas open, it's released all its films, and is far and it's the only one that's coming close to challenging Netflix. It's miles ahead in terms of subscriber numbers than Apple TV Plus, because it had the combination of huge back catalogue that everyone loved and wanted to watch, plus it was releasing new stuff that people wanted to see. And when also your brand is Disney, that's quite a potent combination, right? If you have a limited street budget to spend on this stuff, are you going to spend your $5.99 on Star Wars, Pixar, and Mickey Mouse, or are you going to spend it on, some shows you haven't heard of from Apple? I mean, no one's really paying for Apple at the moment, but you take my point. It's going to be interesting to see, because a lot of the streaming shows, a lot of the productions were shut down for the last year. And so now we need to, get things back up. And once there is a smooth flow of content into all these channels, it's going to be very interesting to see how it all shakes out. Because you're absolutely on point with Disney.
That's the thing that Disney has done really well. Whereas I'm pretty sure and Apple did well to get Dickinson season 2 out the door. But I'm pretty sure we were meant to have seen the next bit of The Morning Show, for example, which was a big headline show for the service when it launched. And I'm not sure. I think it has been recording. I've seen pictures from Jennifer Aniston on Instagram tweeting that they're recording or whatever. But I'm pretty sure we were meant to see that already. And it's led to a mess where basically Apple feels it can't charge for its service.
Yeah. Well, and with that particular show, it was interesting because as I understand it, it had to be rewritten for the pandemic, because they couldn't just rewritten it. Yeah, they couldn't just continue on with a morning show when we are all living in lockdown and they're just doing their normal thing. So
yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. Maybe that's a different conversation. I kind of hope we don't have to, having lived through a year of the pandemic, I hope we don't have to live through like a year of pandemic TV. I'm not sure I could deal with. Do you know what I mean? I've done the real thing. I'd quite like to watch. I don't need to watch, as I say, I don't need pandemic TV.
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting point. It'll be interesting to see how much they lean on that. Help me out. What was the other show, the Apple TV show that was about the game company? I'm completely drawing a blank.
Mythic Quest.
Mythic Quest. Yeah, they did their lockdown episode.
Yeah, so if you ask Dave Hamilton, I think calls it the best bit of lockdown TV there was. He thought it was done the best and felt the most natural, and really it was done really nicely. But they're returning to the office as well.
Right.
If you that they made a point that the characters return to the office, apart from one apparently, which is quite funny. Yeah. I think they do it in quite a funny way. But Yeah, so Mythic Quest, they're kind of looking for that season 2 is coming. But again, we probably were meant to have seen that by now, or at least be pretty near.
Well, and that too was, I mean, it was right in the middle of the pandemic, so a lot of people were able to relate to that episode.
Sure, and I think they did it, yeah. And the thing that Apple has done well in terms of navigating pandemic TV is it obviously had some films in the locker that it could get out the door. It's not just Greyhound, which it never would have got without the pandemic, because that would have gone straight to theatre. But it's things like it had the Billie Eilish documentary, for example, that it knew it already had. Cherry was already there, although I think, and there was another one that was meant to, and Cherry also was in theatres a little bit, and then it's now on TV Plus. So there's a few bits where they've kind of managed to mix the model a bit.
Yeah, everybody's shifting around. I hope we can get back to something that looks a little more like normal. It is going to truly be the new normal, because we can't go through what we've gone through in the last year and not have some changes. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah, as I say, so long as I don't have to spend a year reviewing pandemic-inspired TV, we'll be okay.
Which brings me to the other thing I wanted to ask is what are you watching? What have you been watching?
What have I been watching? So here, couple of guilty pleasures for you. I've started The West Wing from the beginning, again, for about the third time, because It's on one of the streaming services here in the UK. And it's just, I mean, some of the stuff you definitely would not get away with in 2021, but it's great. It's still, the first seasons are still brilliant. I have been enjoying a show that I don't know will appeal to many of your viewers, but I really enjoy, which is The Bold Type, which is, I talked about it on an episode of Media Plus, actually. It's about 3 very glamorous millennials, or probably a bit younger, like younger millennials, in a New York fashion magazine, basically. And it's a perfect example of what we were griping about before. So Amazon Prime Video in the UK bought 3 seasons of it. There are 4 seasons, but you couldn't watch the 4th season in the UK until Netflix sorted it out a few weeks ago. Which is just like everyone in the UK, like who wanted to watch this show, knew that the 4th season existed, and there's a 5th one on the way. But they finally sorted that with Netflix. So I've been enjoying that as my kind of light, silly television. I did watch the Billie Eilish documentary. There's a review of that on the MacObserver.com. If you're going to do it, do it in chunks. It's far too long. It's like, it is what it is if you're a Billie Eilish fan, but it's long. What else have I done? Obviously, we've done Ted Lasso on Apple TV Plus, so that's been fun as well. There's been a few bits. Here's one that might appeal. The Queen's Gambit. I'm holding off on the finale because I don't want to end it. I've been enjoying that too much. I don't want to finish it, but that's been brilliant on Netflix as well.
That's good. I've heard good things about the Queen's Gambit. I think
you like it.
Started.
It's very good.
Yeah, some of the reviews I've read, because initially I would have just blown right by it, but some of the reviews I've read said that it's not what you think it is. No. It's a lot better and a lot deeper. So
it's really clever. It's great TV. Yeah, it's done really well. Yeah. It's only 7 episodes of like an hour. It's good.
Yeah.
And actually, I've enjoyed Dickinson on TV Plus as well.
So when you sit down to watch all this, do you make your own popcorn, or how do you? Do I make my own popcorn? No, but snacks are an important part of your TV watching life. I agree with you entirely. Maybe we should do that. What snack goes with which TV Plus show? There you go. There's an article for you.
Listen, you're always an inspirational presence. We should do that.
Yeah. Sure, this has been a lot of fun, and thank you, first of all, for catching us up. But I feel like we hit some light stuff. We also hit some deep stuff. This is
that's the fun of covering the media industry. There's a lot of different elements to it,
and the tech industry as well. In the way the two are interacting. So
exactly.
So Media Plus,
yes,
is the podcast. Your columns are on the Mac Observer. What else do we have? Any place else you want to send people?
You can tell me all the things I'm wrong about over on Twitter at Charlotte A. Henry.
Great.
And then,
Charlotte, thanks.
Media Plus comes out every Tuesday.
We have to do this more often. That's all there is to it. I know it's a bit of a challenge for both of us because of the time zones, but it's always a blast. Thank you so much.
If you could all stay on Eastern Daily Time forever, that would be really nice. Thanks.
I wouldn't mind that at all. Just stop changing it. I don't care. Pick one, stay there. I'd be very happy, and I know a lot of other people would be too.
That's true.
We'll see you again soon.
I hope so. Thanks for having me, Chuck. Speak soon.
Thank you. Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Voices. Yeah, we got to get Charlotte back more often. This has been really interesting and thought-provoking. It brought up some questions now I need to go and think about it because I'm not even sure how I feel about them. I hope maybe it did the same for you. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching.
Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.